Hello everyone and welcome to my video review of the Samsung S34E790C 34-inch ultra-wide curved gaming monitor. So without further ado, let's have a look at the panel itself. And first off, we're going to start by looking at the viewing angles of the panel. So the panel uses a VA panel, which is supposed to combine the best things of IPS and TN. TN's known for being very quick, meaning that they're very good for gaming. However, they also have great brightness. However, they are not great at color reproduction, and the color shifting especially is very predominant on them. IPS obviously has great color reproduction and hardly any shifting in with angles, but it's also quite slow. So VA is kind of a mix of both. So what they try to do is offer really good viewing angles, which, as you can see here, are pretty good. I didn't really notice any real shifting at all, even at quite extreme viewing angles. The other benefit of VAs is they've got really good black levels, which, as you'll see later, it means that the blacks really are quite deep and dark, which is in fact better than IPS or TN panels generally. The biggest problem with VA panels is predominantly response time. It can cause ghosting, and as you'll see later, you'll see what the effect of that is on this panel. So let's take a look at the stand. The stand has two modes of adjustment. One is height adjustment, as you can see here, going from the highest position to the lowest position. The other is a tilt adjustment, which means you can tilt the screen up towards the ceiling or down towards the floor. I don't actually demo that in this video, but it's tilt adjustment. It's pretty obvious. There was a slight defect, however, with my monitor stand. Now, whether this is something that can be worked out over time or not, I don't know. On the bottom left-hand edge, when fully height up to the top, it's about 7 inches from the desk. And the bottom right-hand corner is nearly 8 inches from the desk, which means that there's actually quite a significant lean to the left with my monitor stand. Now, I've been putting quite a lot of pressure to do that kind of action to try and sort of encourage it to lean back the other way. It actually has helped, and I think it will eventually even out. But still, nevertheless, quite annoying. So at the back of the monitor, you've got the Samsung OSD menu control joystick in the bottom left-hand corner. It's just a joystick. You kind of flick it up, flick it down, and it's got a push button in the middle. It's really easy to use. My camera struggled a lot to focus on it, but there we are. So at the back here you can see the impressive mount that supports the monitor, and along with that you can also see that there is a standard VESA mount on the back of the monitor there, so that if you did want to replace the stand with your own custom one, you could. On the bottom right hand corner you've got all the inputs, so from left to right you've got power, HDMI 1, HDMI 2, display port, and then above those you've got the 4 powered USB inputs that are all powered off that USB connector, which is a proprietary cable. Goddamn right. So next up I thought we'd look at some slightly more real world use case scenarios. So this isn't actually in-game footage, this is in fact a 1440p YouTube ultra widescreen stream. Now for that reason it's not crystal clear, it's not pixel perfect as the original would have been, but it will give you an indication as to kind of what the ghosting levels are like, and how the extra widescreen comes into effect when you're playing something like Grid, in terms of the amount of extra space you've got available to see in either side of your car, and the immersiveness that gives you.
You got me. Let's go.
And up next we've got Robert Space Industries' Star Citizen. Now, Star Citizen supports 21:9 resolutions natively. This again isn't in-game footage, this is actually a YouTube stream of in-game footage, just because it's simpler for me to commentate over something that's already pre-recorded than actually play it. But if you want to see some real in-game footage, you will see some later. There's a Counter-Strike bit video coming up soon. The game itself is incredible. Obviously there's a first-person element, which is the sort of hangar module, and then there's obviously the space simulator mode, which is the dogfighting module currently released to backers. And it's in this module that really the screen really shines, because the extra field of vision is really does help play the game that much better and make it that much more immersive, because you just have just that extra bit of room which isn't covered with UI elements, which does allow you to see slightly further to your left and to your right. And the slight curvature of the screen just adds to the immersiveness. You know, the left-hand side of the screen and the right-hand side of the screen aren't any further away from your eyes than the centre of the screen. You don't even notice the curve once you've been playing it for a while. And finally, here it is. This is Counter-Strike Global Offensive running natively on the monitor. And I genuinely am playing this while it's being recorded, which is difficult to say the least with a video camcorder between myself and the keyboard and the mouse. But personally, I played this for a little while and it is incredible. The response times on the monitor, I don't notice any problems with them whatsoever. The refresh rate is 60 Hz. This is running on the DisplayPort 1.2 connector, and as I said, it's running at the full resolution. Counter-Strike is well known for being an incredibly fast and a very responsive game. I do think that if there was any noticeable latency or lag or ghosting, that this is the kind of game that would highlight it. Obviously, there is a little bit of noticeable tearing as I turn sharply from left to right. Personally, I didn't actually notice that while I was playing the game. I do wonder whether or not it's a refresh rate issue between the video camera and the monitor itself. So I think it's about time that we start wrapping this up. So I'm going to start off with the physical side of things. The monitor itself, size-wise, I think 34 inches is a really nice sweet spot between too big and too small. It also means that if you are playing any non-ultra widescreen games, you can center align it and run it as standard 1440p, and it is the equivalent of a 27-inch 1440p monitor, which is considered by most to be the sort of sweet spot. Next up, the stand itself. Obviously it's got tilt and height adjust. Pivot obviously is not going to be expected on a 34-inch ultra widescreen monitor. It would hit the desk long before you manage to pivot it vertical. However, I'm a little bit disappointed obviously that there is a slight lean on the stand. I don't think that that's an issue that's going to plague the majority of people. I think generally the stand is incredibly well built, very solid, and obviously with the VESA mount on the back, it gives you an option to use that if you so choose. The connectors on the back, obviously the HDMI, there's two HDMIs and a DisplayPort 2, I think is ample for most people. I myself have my MacBook Pro and my PC hooked up to it, one with HDMI and one with DisplayPort. Worth noting though that the HDMIs only offer 50 Hz. The addition of some USB ports on the back of the monitor is a nice surprise. I actually found it really useful as well, because the monitor is so big. It's actually quite a long way away from my computer, which means that I can use that USB cable and then plug my keyboard and my mouse into the monitor itself, which saves sprawling cables everywhere, which that was a really nice feature. Next up, it's the panel itself. I found the colours to be incredibly good once the display had been calibrated. However, out of the box, it was a bit over bright, and the colours were a little bit warm, generally. But nothing that a very, very quick calibration can't solve. Post-calibration, I think they're incredible. The response time and the ghosting I find perfect for gaming use, even fairly fast-paced games, as you can see, like Counter-Strike. I didn't have any issues whatsoever, so I really can't complain about the ghosting issues. You know, they say 4 milliseconds of lag, and that seems fine. So I think the question then becomes, would I recommend this monitor? And the answer is yes, to a certain number of people. I wouldn't recommend this to everybody. The extra widescreen real estate is really, really useful if you are doing video editing or programming, working with lots of windows side by side, basically. For the people that are using that as a daily job, then it's invaluable. As a gaming machine, as a gaming monitor, you know, this obviously has to compete against the likes of the 144Hz, 120Hz, 1440p panels. I think from an immersiveness point of view, the extra widescreen is incredible what it offers, and it really does replace multi-display or multi-monitor configurations without the annoying bezels in the middle. So if you're coming from something like a 2-monitor Eyefinity or a 3-monitor Eyefinity setup, then this is definitely something to consider. The downside is it costs almost as much as 3 monitors in Eyefinity, and it's no easier to drive. I mean, it lies somewhere almost bang smack in the middle between 1080p and 4K in terms of how hard it is to drive, which means you really are going to have the system and the graphics card especially to back this up if you're planning on doing gaming at this resolution. Otherwise you'll be forced to drop it down to 1440p standard widescreen and just run it in the middle as a 27-inch monitor. But then why buy a super widescreen in the first place? So it's score time, and with everything to be considered, I'm going to give this a really solid 8 out of 10. It's amazing, not quite perfect. If they could do a 144Hz version of this panel, and maybe make the stand not lean to the left or to the right, then it would be a 10, no doubt about it.